As Ms. Huang just shared with us, 2021 and 2022 will be two different pictures in terms of planning and transformation. COVID had impacted the way that we do our planning, salary increase, salary budget, bonuses, workforce planning for next year. The context is in Vietnam. How about our regional? What have they done in order to cope with COVID, and any practices that Vietnam can align? And can we apply any practices in Vietnam? Please join me to welcome Ms. Gulapali Terping, a regional industry and solution leader APAC from Mercer, Singapore, to share with us 2021 regional compensation trends changing in the context of pandemic. Welcome, Ms. Gulapali.
Introduced by Nu, and you can call me A for short. I lead region industry and product solution for Mercer in APAC region, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you at the Report Summit once again. Okay, so let's look at that, what I'll be going to cover for today. So what I will be with you in the next 1 hour to share some of the economic outlook and how the pandemic has impacted the overall GDP growth, the hiring situation, unemployment rates across countries in APAC. And then we will actually look into the talent practices around flexible working and remote working strategy and how it's being adopted by the firms in APAC. This is very hot, topic, right? Everyone wants to know how everyone's is doing in terms of the flexible working. And the last but not least, I'll deep dive into the compensation trends and how COVID-19 has impacted the reward philosophy and pay policies in APAC. I hope you guys will enjoy it, and please sit back, relax, and enjoy the session, okay? So let's move on to the next slide. Let's start by taking you through the effect of the pandemic on the microeconomic and employment landscape first, yeah? Everyone knows that 2020 was such a sad year, right? If you think back, it's really sad. After economies across the world have been damaged by COVID-19 in 2020, we started with two scenarios for 2021, right? I'm going to bring you back to the future, caution optimism as vaccine has been rolled out and the possibility of a strong rebound. The stock options, the stock market has shown the good signs, right? And fast forward, we already in October, which is 10 months into 2021. We are seeing faster and stronger economic recovery across countries in the world. US is leading the pack by 7%, if you look at the green bars here, followed by APAC, which is 6.5%, and then Europe, which is 4.8%. So it's very, heartwarming to be able to see that things has been better. The outlook of the remaining part of the year is still dominated by the contest between the COVID-19, which we have known as Delta, right? And the rising of the vaccination levels across the regions and across the world. The outcome will vary by regions and countries, and we expect the emerging economies to benefit from the strong growth. But many will see the full benefits of the vaccine rollout only in 2022. Yeah. And now let's look at APAC region. How are we doing? We are seeing a widening gap based on the vaccine take-up rates. Countries with higher vaccine rates are able to open up faster, right? Whereas the countries in a lockdown struggling with economic activities in their countries. Asia has been accelerating, led by the big industrial markets and its global hub. So the country's savings are reducing in weaker emerging market. But good news to all of us is that we have seen the great bounce back on the GDP growth numbers. If you can look at the dark blue bars across economies in 2021. So I see you can see that it's much higher as compared to the pink one, which is so miserable. Yeah. And the countries also continue to be challenged by the new infection waves though. And as for GDP growth for 2022, which is a green bar, it's a very mixed picture. Yeah. APAC economy can be split into two camps actually in terms of the growth in 2022. So the economies like ASEAN countries and India, with a weaker government and household balance sheet, it has hurt their GDP a little bit, right? But 2022 projection seems to be on the positive side, especially Vietnam indicating about 7.2%, which is, good for you. And Vietnam has been managing the COVID quite well. I'm so impressed, as compared to neighboring countries. And Vietnam has planned to open up the country, quite soon as well, right? If I'm not mistaken, I heard from the news, probably going to be in November to welcome more tourists. So that's going to actually be good for the countries. Exciting for all of you. While economies such as Australia, Singapore, Taiwan, and New Zealand will be able to continue to support public sector works and household spending in 2020, but the GDP growth is projected to be rather conservative. Okay, now let's look at the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate also, has been kind of better. And we know the pandemic has brought disruption into the world of work, right? The graph that for the unemployment rate, it has been projected to improve in the second half of 2021 and 2022. If there's nothing's gonna, be worse. I was just reading an article, on the newspaper the other day. I think probably you guys have read it as well, that something has happened in China, right? So they actually cancel all the flights and closed, the schools and everything. So it just reminded me of the 2019. I just hope, and my fingers and my toes also are crossed, that things not going to be like, the 2020 again, right? It has started from China, and now it's like I've seen some of that as well, but the surge has been going up everywhere, right? So we just hope that nothing's going to happen. And you can see that from the blue line, which is declined, lower as compared to the pink line, which is the lower the better in terms of unemployment rate, right? We are 2 months to the end of the 2021. Time flies. December is just around the corner. Christmas is just around the corner, right? And we hope that job market will continue to be better as compared to, last year, as the companies have adapted to the new shape of work. And we learn how to live with the COVID. We learn how to live with the new normal. And the company have redesigned on their work arrangement strategies and talent strategies as well. Yeah. Let's move on to the hiring intention on the next slide. Hiring intention on this slide is talking about, the companies are still hiring in 2021, but not as much as a pre-pandemic level. But it's good. You can see the blue, graph, the green graph there is actually been much higher, or is it about the same? So it's good news, right? A lot of companies started to lose people left, right, center because, people are looking out and have more jobs has been opened up. It's more employees market now. Recently, we actually have a great resignation across the whole APAC. Probably you guys also experiencing that as well, in Vietnam. Companies are still actively hiring, and these, not just only the replacement, but also additional new headcounts as well. And these companies are from the industry like high tech, commerce industry. And I heard who are sharing as well that for Vietnam, you still have a lot of industries is still hiring, like financial institution, banking, insurance, agriculture, and transportation, which is so good. I mean, there's a lot of growth within the countries as well. But unfortunately, we also continue to see the headcount reduction across the industry that has been quite badly affected by the COVID-19. The figure of the headcount reduction are much lower though for this year as compared to last year, which is about 5 to 10%, whereas last year was about 22% in terms of the headcount reduction. It's a good sign of the slow recovery for the APAC region. But remember that I mentioned, right, that high GDP, what does it mean? It equals to more job opportunities and more jobs to be created. And then it will give us better in terms of a low unemployment rate. But what is not good for you guys is that it's going to be huge attrition, right? So what HR has to be prepared is that they have to be, very busy backfilling the jobs. So what you need to do is to have a good retention and attraction strategy, ready for the for the months to come. Okay. So let's move on to the second session, whereby I'm going to touch upon the talent practice and the flexible working strategy. Now let's look at the next slide. As we move in to the new way of work, remote working, and we know that the COVID has changed the rule of for where we work, when we work, and how we work, right? With a large percentage of us are working from home now, myself included, right? Therefore, our co-workers or co-partners, that we work with are totally different right now. If you look at the picture here, we have partners, spouses, children, roommates, even pet, as your co-worker. People face different challenges based on different responsibility, like either childcare or elder care. So it depends who you live with. 66% of the respondents do not value remote working. And this probably, I believe that probably a lot of youngsters reply to these other companies that actually have a lot of young demographics as well. They feel that they got disrupted by others in the household for up to 5 times on a daily basis. I can imagine if you have children, mom, I'm hungry, so mom have to go cook. Mom, I can't do homework, right? And then suddenly the doorbell ring. And suddenly, you have to go and then, do another supper for the child, and the dog barks, have to scold the dog. So I think all this is really disruptive, right? For your, current environment. So it's not so conducive at all. So what it is in terms of the people manager, you need to check whether your people have the right place which is conducive for them to do the work. Here in Singapore, some people do not have a very conducive environment to work. They have to work at the kitchen table, or they have to take care of the children at the same time, or actually cooking and talking, on the conference call. And that's really happening, right? But, and in Europe and US, they have a different, completely different attitudes, towards coming back to office. They do not want to come back. So the company have to stimulate them to come back. Quite different from Asia. How about in Vietnam? Which option do you think employees prefer? Work from home or work from office? I would like to hear from you as well, right? I mean, in terms of, and whether you have actually checked with the employees, and have you ever done the engagement survey to check on that preference as well? So this is something important to make sure that the employees stay engaged with the organization. Let's move on to the next slide. It's important to recognize that there are many different models, okay, that are emerging related to remote working. As you consider remote working on a scale from an office-based culture or remote-first culture. So it really depends on the organization. If on the left-hand side, the far left, your companies is actually probably expect the employees to return to work if you really on the office-driven culture. So a lot of organizations also prefer to have the people come back to work after the vaccine is already been widely available, and there is no government restriction. However, we also have seen that on the most far right, the companies prefer to operate virtual, and convert the office to the studio, focus on the community and collaboration instead. Okay, and if you look at the distributed model here, the distributed model means that employees are working in different locations, which could be remote offices, headquarter facilities, home office. It can be anywhere, as long as we actually can have a virtual communication through the like what we do right now, which is a Zoom. And it's easy, and even have the can manage from the multiple countries as well. But it's not that well perceptive and in Asia just yet. Yeah, and the most popular one is a hybrid model, where employees can work remotely up to 50% of the time, with an option of a full-time remote work if your boss allows, right? But at least it still continue to have a strong tie to the office. An organization probably prefer you to come in like 2 to 3 days on the weekly basis. So that's up to you. But what we have seen, majority of the companies also recognize that there's no one size fits all, right? In the world, there's no one size fits all, right? Different shapes, color and sizes as well. So they'll have probably multiple models, to actually create, within the organization, and see according to what is the the best way to maximize the productivity. So some roles might require to have face-to-face collaboration with, and others might not require to that. So I would suggest that, please examine, the work that is really critical in your organization before you decide what's the best option for you. Okay. In the next slide, we also have asked the employers to see whether, okay, what are you planning and how you're doing that? So they were saying that, yeah, they're considering who should be eligible for flexible working. You can't put the, blue collar workers to be work from home based on the manufacturing setup, right? So that's a no. So definitely, if you are from the manufacturing kind of, setup, you can't have this kind of arrangement. And how do we define the hybrid role? And how can we repurpose our benefit for hybrid working? Should we continue to provide the transport allowance, or should we pay for employees' utilities bill? Therefore, company need to consider when, where, what, and how work is done, and who does the work as a key consideration in developing the flexible working strategy. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. And majority of the companies also use the nature of work as the main criteria to determine the flexibility for remote working assignments. So there are the sets of questions, to help them determine what are the jobs that can be done remotely. For example, the public question, but the person has to be physically in the office or not to do the job. If not, it doesn't matter. And person has to be face-to-face communication all the time or not. And person has to be managing confidential information and has to be at the office, or it can be done somewhere else. And do they have the, proper tools, to be able to carry out the job? And whether the jobs, can be done virtual, based on virtual communication. And is the role autonomous enough, or the role require any collaboration internally? Yeah, so that's something that you probably have to think about. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Whether you're planning, for remote working or on-site working, you need to provide some support to your employees regardless. And I hope you have done that, right? And this is based on what we have seen the companies in APAC looking at, okay, if it's remote working, the company definitely would have to provide like a first supply, like paper, pen, or post-it, home office setup allowance, reimbursement of the telecommuting expenses. Yeah, and if how about on-site working, they also need to make sure that they provide a care protection package, which is mask, wet wipe, face shield, and hand sanitizer, or even transport benefits that, the company might even have to provide company bus reimbursing costs for the private hire vehicles if they use, Grab or Gojek, and even provide catering now because, to encourage people to come back to work. But make sure that they minimize unnecessary contacts with others. Yeah, so this is just to stay safe and stay, to make sure that, we have some protection within the organization. And whether you do either remote or on-site working, companies also still have to provide a virtual wellness support, some incentive to incentivize people to get vaccine, yeah, and a cash bonus for taking vacation, because leave has been a liability issue for every organization, right? People don't want to take leave because you can't go anywhere. So please to make sure that that's actually working well. In the next slide, also it's very nice to see companies provide support to the employees for home setup, right? But even though it's not quite a lot, but we also have seen quite a number of organizations still kind to provide this kind of setup to organize to the employees, especially in India. And I think because India has been locked out very long time, right? So therefore they need to provide this to the employees. And the amount varies from country to country, between $11 to $48 for monthly reimbursement to subsidize the internet and utility expenses. As for home office setup allowances, which is one-time setup allowances, the companies also provide about 240 to 525 on average, depending on the cost of living of each country, yeah, and the price of the course that actually they can actually reimburse. And companies in Vietnam, very kind. You provide about $400 for the home office setup allowance to your employees, but I don't see that much in terms of the numbers that the company provided, but it's good. Those that provided very generous, $400 for Vietnam, cost of living is really, really generous, right? And the next slide, I think some of you probably have heard about, the company were very concerned earlier about the impact of the remote working, whether is it going to be okay in terms of the productivity, collaboration, and development. But you know what? 94% of the employers in APAC, okay, say that productivity has remained the same or even better, right? Since people, have started to work, remotely. I was just thinking to myself as well, yeah, of course, right? I mean, I myself work so long hours. I'm sure everyone work long hours as well because you was at home. So you try to work at least 10 hours, 12 hours at least, right? And you have meetings, you have Zoom meeting during the day, and you have to finish your emails at night. So I think that makes the difference and probably, give us a better productivity, at the end of the day. And some companies also say that collaboration has, remained the same or even improved. I also was thinking, yeah, of course, we can't travel. So there's no out of office that, oh, I'm out of office, reach me out later. But now everyone is on Zoom. Everyone can just reach out and be connected quite easily. And company also said there is no negative impact on the employees' development. At first, people thought, okay, how about learning? But apparently learning also has been okay, so it's clear that flexibility is here to stay. I think it's a human survival kit, right? We actually adjusting well. We need to make sure that we can survive in this kind of environment. And, and we have seen a lot of organization has, kind of adjust the office remote working, which is much higher as compared to last year. If you look there, part-time remote working is about, 76% now that the companies would like to adopt this model, right? Last year is only 46%. So it's been good that the companies are much, more flexible in this sense. And like I said earlier, companies also plan to do about 2 days a week or 3 days a week, according to what you think is deemed appropriate to your organization. Now let's look at the next slide. In terms of, moving towards the increased remote working, the companies are introducing changes in their policies, people, program, and infrastructure to better support remote workers. And based on the recent survey, employees just realized and recognize that creating a more supportive culture of flexible working is very, very crucial to sustainable execution. Why? Because we never have this kind of culture before. Some companies, and I noticed and I heard about it, especially the local companies, yeah. Oh, they do not prefer to have a work from home or flexible working, arrangement. So I think this mindset has to be changed slightly to make sure that they can actually move on, and then they can keep employees to stay with them as well. It's very interesting that when I interview some of the candidates, they ask us, youngsters, okay, Gen Y, Gen X or millennials, do you provide a hybrid working, arrangement here? Because they said, why is it important for you? Yes, that's one of the key consideration whether I would choose the job. And, and this is true. This is a new generation, right? I'm sure you probably can relate to this conversation as well. So companies are also streamlining their communication process. You can't have a long-winded communication in the emails sent to the employees and expect them to read. Be precise, yeah? And they also realize that their people programs were not designed around flexible workforce at all. So they are assessing the impact on that people program and revamping it to make it more flexible approach and sustainable over the long term, especially in the area of onboarding, right? Thinking about you hiring new people, onboarding is important to make them feel care and, love and, attended, right? And health and well-being program, manager capability and workforce management, which are emerging as critical areas for attention. So please, please, please look at these 5 areas if you're planning, for the remote working policies, okay? Let's move on to the next slide. And I love this actually, because this is something new to me. With the change in lifestyle for the past 20 months, yeah, it gave birth to at least 2 new terms here. Have you heard about this before? FOGO and FONO. FOGO, fear for going out. Scared and anxious of going out, even though, when it's safe, right? Perception there's something scary out there. But you know what? I actually can relate to this, whether I'm old-fashioned. 2 weeks ago, I went to watch movie. First time after, 18 months, right? Or close to 20 months. And I was like, I watched the No Time to Die. It's a very long movie, right? So I didn't even drink at all. I don't want to move my mask because you're allowed to drink, you're allowed to eat, in that kind of premises. So, but I didn't, so I would just like relate to this when I read this. It's like, yeah. And I'm sure it's not only me and some of us as well, right? And what is FONO? Fear for normal, fear of normal, you know, basically you have social and emotional anxiety caused by stress about getting back to pre-pandemic normal life. That's interesting. Experiencing emotional roadblock in the road of returning to normal. And I also probably think that, it's true because based on the recent surveys, 75% of the companies say that their employees have anxieties and hesitancy to return to the workplace, right? So people get used to this. At first they were kind of reluctant, awkward how to work from home. But once when you've been working from home for almost 2 years, you seem to enjoy, you seem to like, okay, I don't have to get dressed. I don't have to put makeup. I don't have to, travel. I don't have to commute. I can just coming from the, bedroom to the study room or office or the dining table. And you can do a lot of things at the same time. So people, have a different feeling right now. This shows the tremendous amount of mental stress on people, whether it's a FOGO, it's a FONO, it's really unlikely not to go away very soon. And it's critical to proactively support mental well-being of your employees wherever it is possible, right? Yes, definitely. The mental well-being trend is definitely, a part of it. Let's move on to the next slide, right? According to Mercer's survey, have organization impact have seen indication of employees burnout worsen in recent months, right? And this can lead to anxiety, lower productivity, and even departure from the workforce. Leaders must understand which of their employees may be particularly at risk of pandemic-related burnout and take a step, okay, to do something for them. It could be based on a one person or it could be a program, something, that you can actually come up with, and provide extra benefits and program for the employees to reduce stress and raise employee morale. Yeah, you have the EPA programs that has been used across the countries. So if you don't have that, please do try to organize one for the employees. Asian culture is quite, not so open, right? And wellness, like mental health is still a stigma within Asian culture. So I think, all companies need to change that culture and then make it more, embrace how you can actually accept it and then share that it's okay to not to be okay, right? It's all right not to be okay. And this is acceptable. And companies recognize the need of taking a break from work. Like I said earlier, a lot of leaders encourage employees to use their paid leave, to refresh and recharge. And companies are also offering online classes and all the apps. And you've seen it in the market, right? There's a lot of apps, a lot of, kind of fun classes like Zumba, cooking, yoga, meditation, anything. And the work style change is also being introduced, like no camera days, no meeting days, break between calls, walking calls, or even alternate Friday off. Have you guys done that in Vietnam? Please, consider that as well if you have not, right? It's something, for your employees to feel refreshed and recharged. Some companies are even offering extra time off, or the programs to address the social isolation. Some people don't like to be by themselves, right? They can't do it. And if you were not married and you live alone, so sometimes it can be kind of, very hard for all of us to take that, if you have to be alone and the lockdown. But now companies, the countries is opening up, so it's much better. You can see people. I'm not sure whether it's relevant to Vietnam, but in the APAC regions, a lot of, countries still not able to go out so much. Even in Singapore right now, we only allow 2 people to dine in at the restaurant. And we only allow to have 2 guests to come to visit us in a day. Okay, and it's been extended. It was supposed to finish by next week, but it's been extended to November 21st. So this is also, something that the government would like to make sure that the cases are controlled. Yeah, so we have to, go along with that, right? And adjust our life accordingly. Yeah. On the next slide, let's look at the vaccination rate. It's interesting. Vietnam vaccination rate is a bit low, guys. it would be good if employers can help by incentivizing employees to go for that job faster. Yeah. And most employers in APAC have been encouraging and supporting the employees to get vaccinated. And half of the employers also provide extra time off to the employees to get vaccinated, and don't ask them to use their existing vacation or sick leave at all. Just give the time off for them to go, right? And a quarter of employers also giving a time off for employees to recover, even now, not just to go and take vaccine, but to recover up to 5 days maximum. It's also interesting to see a lot of companies in APAC offer financial incentive to employees to get vaccine. I'm not sure in Vietnam, are you guys doing that, kind of openly or, encouragingly? But in APAC, yes, some cash incentive provided ranges between $50 to $500, depending on the countries, to give it to employees. And in Hong Kong, it's so interesting. There's a lucky draw for a condominium. The cost is about millions of dollars, okay, has been provided to encourage people to go for the vaccine. And this is actually not done by the government. This has been given by the rich conglomerate, yeah, to give it to the, kind of employees and to go for the vaccine. Employers are also offering incentives such as pre-vaccination health checkup, vitamins allowances, gift or even care packages, or even gold. Right? So if you want to go a job, if you want to get a goal, you go for the job, right? So that's the slogan that they have as well in some of the countries. And some companies also even, provide reimbursement for the transport costs that is incurred between, the facilities as well. And just yesterday, I read an article in Singapore. The vaccination requirement is a new hiring trend. Yeah. So the job posting required vaccination, was up, more than usual, which is 19 times higher now, that they require you to be vaccinated in order to you to come even for the interview or to get a job. So it's not compulsory, I would say, but it's required. So I'm not sure what to put it across here. So, I mean, just do and get your vaccine, to play safe and to be safe as well. And we have come up with a spectrum table here, okay, on 3 levels, basic, intermediate, and advanced for flexible working, physical well-being, and mental wellness. Yeah. So I'm sure most of us would have gone beyond the basic and intermediate level, right? Some of you probably have done it already, but there are some of the countries in the APAC that's still, slow, and they're not, as advanced as Vietnam. Right. So I think this is just something that I share based on the APAC, practices. I hope you guys can take a reference here as well. So, like if you at the intermediate, you can move into the advanced in terms of what other, pandemic bonus, that you can give it to the employees. And, in terms of the, mental wellness, whether you would like to cover the benefit, including mental health and psychiatrics as well. So I think this is something that you can actually improve your packages that you provide to the employees. Okay, and now let's move to the last section, which is the looking at how a pandemic has impacted reward philosophy, pay policies, and compensation trend in APAC. And the next slide, the current disruption provide unique opportunity for a lot of organizations to rethink about their total rewards philosophy. And based on the recent survey, 60% of the global organization are planning to review their total rewards and benefits strategy. And companies are considering what are essential for their employees right now. And employees also view, in terms of what is important for them, right? Not just only nice to have anymore, but it's what is needed to have right now. So a company have to align in terms of reviewing the, policies, both com and ben to the employees. In the next slide, based on our, recent survey, on the next slide, we have, seen that the 71% of the participating companies have confirmed that they're reviewing and changing their benefit policies this year. So I hope you guys is one of these 71% as well. And the reason why the top, they would like to do is based on these top 4 reasons. The first one is to focus on attraction and retention. right? So they know that, this benefit can be something that, can use as a, talent acquisition strategy. And now employees are starting to look beyond the, monetary rewards. And they look in terms of what is the total rewards package and the whole culture of the companies as well. And the companies also would like to make sure that the benefit policies is flexible, adaptable, and sustainable in response to the after effect of the COVID-19. Yeah. At the same time, companies also would like to provide the benefits that is sustainable, that can be tailored to employees' needs. It has also would like to focus on the cost optimization as well. Yeah. And the last part that, why the company would like to address this is because they would like to establish an employer branding. But I'm sure they know that, if you have a good benefits, the employees can be your walking brand ambassador for you. And they can actually talk about it, looking at, sharing at the coffee table. So this is something that can be shared, if there's no secret about the benefit policy, just like, Google of the world, Facebook of the world, that we know the benefit is so good, right? And, the last one is also, looking at the employee value proposition here. The company also tried to come up with a great, purpose in the community for that branding as well, like ESG, go green or no carbon. So this is something that companies also trying to, make sure that they, take part in this, environmental friendly kind of journey. Okay. Now in the next slide, we also have seen the change for the pay policy. I'm not sure whether this is going to be much applicable for Vietnam, but this is, I'm just sharing in terms of, in case, because you guys have a large country as well. And similar to other region, the countries that large like India, or Philippines or Indonesia, so this is something that a lot of organizations, at the regional level looking at in terms of looking how to come up with a change of the pay policies. Companies traditionally compensation strategy is to value the work according to the location of the job, right? We all know that. But with growing remote workforce, employers have to consider whether pay that was set based on the higher cost of the labor market will continue or will be reduced if employees choose to work from a lower cost market, right? But it's still ongoing debate, And we also have seen that 60% of the companies are planning to do some adjustment of their pay policies as well. So there are 4 plans here that you can see that. The first one, pay at the market rate of primary office location. So this is quite a common one. Let's say where is the primary office location? Let's say your Ho Chi Minh City is a primary office location. Or pay at the market rate of the employee's home location, right? So, because now it's getting to be more flexible, people can work anywhere. So otherwise, if you don't want to come back to the home office, office location, you can actually, be at the home location, which is, for example, Hanoi, right? Or pay at the national rate, which is doesn't matter where you work, or the cities that you work, you can just pay according to Vietnam. And the last but not least, pay at the recruitment labor market. So that is based on national, regional, and the local. Yeah. And in terms of the pay adjustment, a lot of organizations still don't know, but whether they're going to do some adjustment or not, but they come up with a plan. They plan to come up with a plan now, right? But we can see that a few organizations have planned to do pay cut or pay freeze for the existing, pay of their employee that exceed the new location rate. So, I mean, this is, has been happening, and you can see from the large tech firm, in the US also have been introducing this arrangement as well. But just my 2 cents, whatever you want to do, please do communicate, right? And whether, when you want to do it and how you want to do it, and it give option to the employee to decide. So if they would like, they don't want to get pay cuts, so, they have to change their lifestyle, they have to change their, preference as well. Okay. Now let's move on to the next slide on the salary freeze and salary reduction. It's good to see that majority of the companies in APAC do not freeze or reduce the salary in 2021. Yeah. Only 17% of companies have implemented salary freeze this year, and 2 have reduced the salary, in terms of the salary reduction. And this is based on the industry that has been affected by the COVID, like energy, in other parts of the, the regions, and retail and wholesale, and also hospitality and logistic and the service organization. As for 2022, quite a number of organizations still a bit cautious and undecided. Good to see that a lot of companies in Vietnam has already, kind of decided on the salary adjustment. But, in other parts of the, region, there's still a lot of organizations still pretty much, worried, whether the impact of the progressiveness of the vaccine is going to be good, or is there any negative impact on their business, due to the new virus. For those that have decided, majority, that want to, give the salary adjustment, they already have given, which I'm going to share with you later. But we have seen that, a few companies also have decided they're going to freeze the salary in 2022, but no salary reduction has been mentioned. So good news about Vietnam, that you guys probably are doing much better than other parts of the world. In the next slide, let's look at the salary increases, for all industry. But good news to all of us who's actually have already, got some good kind of confirmation on the salary increases. The future outlook for 2022 is look more optimistic across the countries in APAC. And salary increases is projected to be slightly higher in 2022 as compared to 2021. You can look at the green bars there versus the dark blue bars. See, you can see a notch higher, about 0.2 to 0.6% across APAC market. Vietnam has a forecast about 7% based on what I had just mentioned just now, which is, around the same as per last year, which is good. But of course, still slightly below as compared to the pre-pandemic, right? A lot of organizations, a lot of countries still catching up with that. But it's encouraging to see that, we have, come this far and then doing pretty good in terms of the salary adjustment. And let's look at the next slide. What I have put here is that I put the key industries that we have across the Mercer survey in APAC. Okay, it might be similar to Vietnam or it might not be similar, but this is just give you, I think most of the industry that you have, would have here as well. And good news for this industry, overall average salary increases for 2022 is projected to be higher than 2021 across the industry here, except life science, showing slightly lower, in Indonesia and Vietnam, which is slightly only, but the sentiment, a positive sentiment still there, across, right? And we continue to see a positive outlook of these 5 industry as well. High tech, is leading the pack in many locations and is expected to have higher salary increases compared to all industry across the market. I also saw that high tech, doing very good in Vietnam as well, right? And it's also interesting to see that India has indicated higher salary increases in 2022 as compared to 2021. And also the higher salary increases across the 5 industries, despite being hit by the pandemic quite badly this year. Outlook of India is still very optimistic. You can see from the green numbers, in the chart there, right? And on the other hand, Japan has indicated the lower salary increase across 5 industries in APAC. But at least it's still the same or even slightly higher than last year. The market sentiment, has not been quite positive for Japan due to the pandemic. And let's look at the promotional increase for the salary for this year. It looks like most market indicated to have either the same or lower promotional salary increase for this year as compared to last year. And it's been reduced about 0.1 to 0.8% across the market, except Hong Kong, India, and Philippines, that they have enjoyed slight increase, about 0.6%. Yeah. And Vietnam has been providing very high promotional increase as compared to, the market, which is about 16.8%, which is so encouraging to see that, right? And it's important for employers to review if promotional increase is attractive enough to retain and attract good performers to stay in the company during this talent war across APAC. If you were to hire people from outside, you would have to pay 20 to 30% minimum, correct? If you actually about to lose your people would get about 20 to 40% increase from the market as well. So I think this is something for us to ponder, whether, our promotional increase is actually, enough to justify, the people to stay with the company, right? But we also don't want to do too much. That's going to be a cost to organization, but at least, to review and see whether it's, kind of justifiable, right? And in the next slide, talking about a variable bonus trend. COVID-19 has impacted a lot of variable components of the employees' compensation, and overall actual variable bonus paid out last year was less than target, which is about 1 to 2% across the countries for both management and professional levels as well. And it varies by market and industry. Yeah, for Vietnam, you see that the variable bonus is lower by 1% for management and 2% by professional as compared to the target. And this is due to underperformance of the some industry that were hit quite badly by COVID-19. Yeah, and if you need to, understand a bit more, please reach out to your, consultants to understand the details here. I'm showing here based on all industries numbers. Okay. And on the next slide, it's always good, and happy to show that the company is doing so many things, and a lot of initiatives has been provided to help employees manage through these difficult times, right? As mentioned earlier, that we have the companies like Microsoft giving out $1,500 to recognize a unique and challenging fiscal year to every employee, across the globe. So this is something very nice to hear that the companies is so caring, right? And we also have seen PwC provide a cash bonus for taking vacation, which is about $250 per week, of vacation. And you can book up to $1,000. So basically your whole month is actually being well taken, care of, for the paid holiday by your employer, by the PwC. And we also, see that the company also introducing workcation, right? Not staycation, workation. So a lucky draw for the employees to win a chance to work in a hotel. Yeah. And they also provide a remote rental reimbursement to the employees as well, in case that you feel, kind of tired to be working at home, but you can reimburse, the rental when you want to work remotely somewhere, and, outside, there's this office space that you can rent and all that. And another one, which I find interesting also, that, people are trying to move away from the retention bonus or sign-on bonus. And this might not be COVID related, but people also try to actually revise the package and see, whether how is it and all that. So they look at, whether, okay, something which is more experience related. Company creates experience incentive for employees by providing like a, skydiving classes, scuba diving classes, spa gift certificate, or weekend getaway, instead of, something that, for the retention bonus. So it really depends on, whether it works for your organization. And companies also provide emergency nanny, during this difficult time, emergency childcare, or even financial aids in terms of tuition assistance or educational loan. Right. And we also have been, kind of seen that companies provide free Apple Music or Spotify subscription to the employees as well. And even the noise cancellation earphones, because, some people just, can't work, right? So you have to have the, you work with a lot of people at home. And this one, I hope that no one's going to claim it, planning your own funeral, right? And it's just that, companies also kind of would like to extend some kindness to help support the employees or immediate families, with their funerals. And because of the cases, it's been happening a lot lately. So we have seen that also, which is very heartening as well. And company also provide gym at your room. So it means that you can buy gym equipment and then come and reimburse it. And this is something that has been ongoing, especially during the lockdown, but now countries is already being opened up, but this is the benefits still there. The good thing is that they don't, remove the benefits, and it's also encouraged for the, healthy lifestyle as well. And as I said, home office setup allowance is being provided about 240 or 525. Okay. So it's come to my last slide, in terms of the how we are going to prepare for the future. And we know that companies are reinventing new businesses and HR strategy in response to the pandemic, because pandemic is not going to go anywhere. Pandemic has continued to change everything, in terms of economic and the talent landscape across the world. So company has to be more flexible and sustainable, in coming up with their work models and business practices. So once when it's more flexible, sustainable, so that would be the key to helping your companies to address today's reality and challenges in the future. All right. So thank you very much for your attention and hope you enjoy the rest of the seminar. Stay positive, stay healthy, and stay safe. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Miss A, for your very inspiring and interesting presentation. And now lots of questions has coming to me. So my pleasure to pick some, like, I think top 2 questions to bring it to you right now, because I know that there's like huge questions coming. So the first one regarding vaccination. Is there any good practice for some employees who anti-vaccine? Yeah, I know that's a must, but then what can we do?
Yeah, I mean, that's always, a part and process of what we have seen in the market, right? I mean, a lot of, in Mercer ourselves, is we also have some employees who's actually not pro-vaccine, right? But we also try to come up and provide a talk to them and give them some options. If you don't want mRNA, you can have, the one like a Sinopharm, Sinovac as well, which is similar to what you have had, for the rest of your life, right? That you have had so far. So I think, showing, kind of the advantages to them and providing a bit of the incentive and telling them whether it's going to be difficult, in the future, if they don't take care of themselves, their loved one's going to be, at risk as well. So I think that's going to be the message. I don't think you can make people to go for the job if they don't want to. It's just only, to kind of influence or convince them, right? And it really depends on the company whether you would like to actually, introduce something which is a bit more strict, because otherwise they have to probably test themselves every day if they come to office. I mean, you can actually impose those kind of rule, right? I mean, if you have to do the ART, every time, or once a month you have to do PCR, it's going to cost the money to you. So if you want to do that, right? So I think really depends on how we actually put things into perspective and, come up with something very, kind of strict, or we would like to leave it to the employees to think. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Miss A. The second questions, we did own actions, as you mentioned here, to engage and help our employees to overcome the mental health. However, it seems that it's not work, and the employees don't feel much better and improvement. So could you share some of more practice for virtual engagement activities in order to reduce the burnout and depressed situation?
Yeah, like I shared earlier, right? There are a lot of interesting programs that you guys can organize, to have fun and not boring, right? I mean, we in Mercer, we have like, we call it afternoon, Friday off from the Zoom call. So every single Friday afternoon, we do not have any Zoom call, even in Mercer. Okay, and whoever actually invite me to have a afternoon Zoom call, I'm just gonna say, hey, it's a Friday frenzy. We call it Friday frenzy. So this is something to encourage everyone to have more time to relax and have more time to do work, not just being on the Zoom call for the past like the entire week. And I think a lot of organizations have a yoga, Zumba, meditation, cooking, baking, all of this is actually kind of good fun stuff to do it together, right? And we know that for sure the BP have introduced, their Friday off on alternate week. Yeah, so this is also very interesting, because when I talk to them, the clients, they say, oh, I try to work so hard on the first 4 days of the week. And then, so I don't have to do anything on Friday. So that becomes something to look forward. So you have a long weekend every other week, which is so cool. I think it's very interesting, to make people feel a little bit, kind of lighter in terms of the, mental stress, right? And, like what I shared earlier, a lot of organizations also kind of provide, a lot of incentive for the people to go on holiday. Kind of, and now is a season, holiday season in December. Please, please, please let your people take a break so they can come back and refresh, right? I know that, a lot of us have been working like 10 months now in 2021. and a lot of budget needs to be met, planning has to be done for 2022, but give them a break. Yeah, people is not a robot. We still need to have some break. And once when they actually enjoy their life, they come back and make your company a happier place to work.
Yeah, thank you, Miss A. So I think I need to keep you right here for 2 more questions because we have tons of
Sure.
coming. So the next questions will be about compensation. What other countries have lower merit increase percentage than Vietnam and India? Do you share some insights?
Oh, you mean the salary increases has been lower for Vietnam and India?
No, Vietnam and India has a higher than other countries. So have any insight on that?
Okay, I think this is based on history and based on the inflation of the countries as well. So I think, if you look at the, Vietnam, so salary adjustment has been about there. Even prior to the pre-pandemic, it's even higher, it's about 8%, 8 something. And based on what I have seen in the, record, right? And now it's already kind of low, but a lot of organizations, use inflation as one of the key consideration, and also the practices that's been in the market. Now, my question to a lot of organizations is, are you really use inflation as a part of the criteria to determine your salary adjustment, or you actually use based on, whatever did you have grandfather? So I think a lot of times is based on the practice within the market. I mean, if you actually were to, slump the salary increases 2-3% like in Singapore, I don't think that, people would be able to take it. So I think, if you would like to stay, competitive, you have to be aligned with the market. And that's why the Talentnet survey is so useful for you to be able to leverage, to see whether what other organizations, are doing, in this space.
Yeah, thanks, Miss A. And the last questions will be for the bonus policy. Have you seen a long-term changes in bonus policy for companies due to COVID?
The policies in terms of the bonus here, we think that it will be kind of review and adjust, okay, according to the, what the company has been doing, in terms of long-term changes here. We have seen a lot of organizations, have a kind of redefine the bonus performance factors and relook at the percentage of the target and maximum bonus as well. So expect, over the long-term economic uncertainty will drive organization to place increased focus on incentive pay instead of the base pay for reward performance in the future. Yeah.
Yep. That will be all for the Q&A session. So thank you very much, Miss A, and look forward to your upcoming sharing in our event.